Shevuot Daf Aleph Amud Aleph, 15 lines down. Today's daf sponsored by Mr. Remdane in honor of his granddaughter Elizabeth. Now we were going back and forth in yesterday's daf about redeeming something, but then we are going to go back to the initial question we had and say, 1 second, Mikol makom kasher, still have a problem. V'chi kedusha shebehen lahecha halcha. How can you have the kedusha that's physically on the item? Just go bye bye. When people say something is hekdesh, they have in mind that the deen will conditionize it and stipulate they can do whatever they want with it. If they want to keep it as a korban, it stays. If not, Yehud Mehen, then the hekdesh goes onto the value, and therefore they could be redeeming it. It says, you said, Hekdish Zachad Mav, someone made a ram for money, hekdesh for money. Kadosh Kedush Guf, it's also physical. No, no, no. When is it considered money? Is when the guy said, I'm making this animal monetarily or value of hekdesh so that they could use it to buy something. But if he's that's for to make the actual item kadosh. But in the second case, where it's not going to be kadosh, it would be say where if he says I'm using the value for buying, let's say, libations, and therefore in that type of case, it doesn't bind physically to the actual item because you can't use it as the actual item. The ram in the first case can't be used as a korban, but the libations can't. The ram can't be used for libation. It says, if the bull or a goat of Yom Kippur were lost, and you separated new ones in place, and then sorry, it's having technical difficulties turning the page. If you had goats that were used for Bnei Israel who were doing Avodah Zarah, and you separate new ones in their place, Kulan Yamutu, all the original ones, if you find them, you would need to let them die. They have to graze till they get a mum, and you could sell it. The pelud mehen and dval, and that money goes according for korbanot. She'en hatat tzibur meta, because the hatat, the korban for the people, the general people, the public, doesn't just left to die. Now the Gemara says, "V'amai if Rabbah holds that you can redeem it, and that bedin has a stipulation automatically in hekdesh, why did let the animal die? And let's say bedin has a stipulation, and therefore you can redeem it if they're not needed. The Gemara says, Avudim ka'amar, you're talking about cases where they got lost. No, Shani Avudim de lo shchichi. Lost korbanot are not common, and therefore there's no gzera on things that are not common. Right? Lo shchiach gazru rabanan. There's no gzera on that. Gemara says, Are parash lo shchicha. Okay, fine. Paraduma, which is the definition of something not common, the red heifer. But Tanya on the right says, Parad niftit al kol pesul shebaha. Paraduma can be redeemed on any type of disqualification. Meta, if it died, tipadeh can be redeemed. Ishhata, if it was slaughtered incorrectly, tipadeh can be redeemed. Mata ahidna ahmena tipadeh. If you found a better paraduma, the original one, you want to use the new one, better one, you can redeem the old one. Shahata al gabeh ma'arachtav. Once you slaughtered on the correct spot on Harazatim, and la pediyal you can never redeem it. Now, we see from here the fact that the cow is designated as the paraduma and it can be replaced by a new one, it must be conditional, even if it though is not a case that even though it's not a common case. So do we make a gzera on common cases or not? The Gemara says, Shani para the kachep de kabaiti. Paraduma is different because that doesn't have the hekdesh of like a korban itself. It has the hekdesh like something that's used for the Bet Hamikdash, for the upkeep of the Bet Hamikdash, right? The different type of hekdesh levels, and this is a lower level because it's not. It's not like a korban personally. It's money that's used for the upkeep of Bet Hamikdash. Therefore, you can redeem it. The Gemara says, "Yach, that's the case. Meta onish hatab tipadeh. If it dies or slaughtered, you can redeem it. How's that possible? You need, in order to redeem something that's bedek abayit, the usage for the Bet HaMikdash, you need to stand it and evaluate and estimate it by a Kohen. And if a dead cow cannot stand, it's literally excluded from that. So how is that possible? The Gemara says, Hani, who's according to the Bishmon, he's according to the Bishmon. The Amar Kocheb Mizbeach Hayu Bechlal Ha'amada V'ha'aracha. Hekdesh items for the Mizbeach, which are physically kadosh, they're already included in standing and assessing. Kocheb Bedek Bayit Lo Hayu Bechlal Ha'amada V'ha'aracha, but Bedek Abayik is not. And therefore you can redeem it, quote unquote, unnaturally, even when it's dead. Okay, Ira Bishmon, according to Bishmon, Imma Sefer, the next part of the Sefer said, next part of the says, Shahata Agabem Arata, if it's slaughtered on Harazatim, and you can never redeem it. But Tana says, Rishon says, Para Adama that was slaughtered, Mitama'at Tumad Orchlin can receive and transfer Tuma of food. Because at one point it was regular animal. Before it became paraduma, at one point it was considered regular animal. If you slaughtered, it become regular food. Therefore, after it's slaughtered, it can receive and transfer food tuma. Okay. Amar Shakish, he said, because it even can. Why is it considered a moment of kasher? Not when it's live, but even after it was put on the harazatim, you can still redeem it. Stira going to be Shimon who says that you can't redeem it in that scenario. The Gemara says no. Must be a complete different reason why you can redeem the paraduma, and that is paraduma can be redeemed because it's a very expensive item, and therefore even though it's uncommon, you're able to redeem it. More, we said earlier, meta to if the paraduma you can redeem it. What? If a paraduma died, which means it's a nevela, you're able to redeem it for what? To feed it to the dog? Since when do we do that? Gemara says, you want to use the hide. Gemara says, why would Betty make a whole takana just to save the hide? Is that really worth it? Gemara says, yes. People say, from the camel or the ear is valuable, meaning even a paradumad hide is valuable, and therefore people buy it, especially collectors and stuff. It'd be a fascinating thing to have. You owned the potential paradumad hide, pretty chilled. Okay. They would sell it at Yom Kippur. Actually, that's a question against Rabbah in our Mishnah. I'm going to Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon. Ma'ushi Kirvuza Vizay. We said, what's halacha? Can you transfer different korbanot for each other? Amar Lahu Yukrivu. He said, yes, no problem. Amar Lahu, they said, 1 second. If they don't bring the same kapara, how can you transfer it over? Amar says, then he told them, all of them, since they all have different types of mechaper of tum'ah in the Bet HaMikdash, they could transfer. Now, we had this many times before. Now we're going to talk about it. Why do you answer that? Say the following. The reason why you could transfer is because Betin can decide if they want to transfer it or not, right? Betin can stipulate that. The Gemara says in Rabbi Shimon, Kamar, you go and point to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon, and he doesn't hold to this concept. That's why he doesn't sit. He says the following. If the korbanot that for the korban tamid they were not needed by the Bnei Israel for that year, they did Rabbi Shimon and nefdin tamin, you cannot redeem it if they don't have a home. If the Hamim say that you can redeem it. So you see, Rabbi Shimon does not hold this concept of the stipulation, and that's why you can't transfer it. Hamim hold you do. So Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon, we said, oh, Hachamim hold you can. Oh, who's Hachamim? Which rabbi holds like this? If you want to say it's Hachamim in the Mishnah regarding the Ketoret, that doesn't make sense. Shani Ketoret is different. The law bar ayahi. There's no such thing as having the animal, the equivalent of having the animal graze in the field until it gets a moon. Ketoret doesn't have that. So that can't be the same halacha. Elam Baran, the Parah, maybe it's referring to the Braita of Paraduma that we just mentioned now. That the Paraduma can be redeemed. Problem is, maybe also not approved because Paraduma is different because it's very expensive. Well, maybe it's the Chachamim that we had in our Mishnah in the beginning of Masechet that said that all animals are not the same. Maybe who says maybe it's not Rebidah? Maybe this is what Rebidah will be saying to be Shimon. Based on me, according to me, that means because I hold that Bedin can decide about stipulate the Hekdesh status. That's why you can't. That's why you could transfer it. That's why you can transfer. According to the Amar Dodi, so you can't. Why can you bring them as a substitute? The Meir, who says maybe it's in Meir? This is what Meir would tell Rabbi Shimon. Based on according to me, I say all goats are equal. Mishum that's why you can transfer. But according to you, who holds all different type of avirot, then how can you transfer it over? Therefore, we say we don't have a proof as who's the Hachamim arguing against Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan had a tradition from his rabbi who taught him always from Moshe Rabbeinu that what? The Divrei Rabbi Shimon, and if according to Rabbi Shimon, you can't transfer it and you can't redeem it. The Divrei Hachamim say you can redeem it. And we don't know who the Hachamim is. It just mentions it without specifying.